Today on CityCast Nashville, August is officially Nashville History Month because Betsy Phillips says it is. Our beloved local historian and Nashville scene columnist is back to tell us 10 ways we can celebrate and why she chose one of the hottest months of the year. It's Wednesday, August 19th. I'm Rachel Iacovone, and this is what Nashville's talking about. All right, Betsy, I want to start, of course, with your article. You have boldly declared August Nashville History Month. Why August?
Because I think August is the worst month. It's too hot. You don't want to actually go do anything. So the idea that you could just drive around in your car and look at things just seems like, okay, this is a way to make this month less odious. Let's go have car adventures.
Why do we need a Nashville History Month at all?
Because no one knows our history. A thing I've learned is that no local Nashvillians are taught any not important Nashville history in school. And we have so many newcomers, and there is no place for them to go and learn our history. We don't have the history book that everybody reads and fights about. We don't have a museum dedicated to Nashville history. We don't even have a museum dedicated to the civil rights movement, which is arguably one of the most important things the city's ever done.
Why do you think it's important for residents to know their city's history?
Well, I think that it makes it easier to understand how we've ended up where we are. I know a lot of people wonder, well, why do we have a metro government instead of a city government? And, that obviously goes back to our history. Or if you're oh, I hate all these woo girls, but then you read history and you're oh, Nashville has always had a problem with carts full of drunken women hollering and upsetting people. That's gone back 200 years. I also think that Nashville has been on so many sides of every issue, but there's so much historic stuff that has happened here that it baffles me that we're not either prouder of it or more intrigued by it. We have these great stories of really interesting people, and there's very few ways for people to find out about them.
I hope people listen to this and their takeaway is that Betsy Phillips said the bachelorettes in the Gulch belong maybe even more than the rest of us transplants.
Oh, it's so disappointing, I know, but we can all join in on drunkenly wooing from the back of a taxi, because apparently it's always been a problem.
Well, you gave us 10 ways to celebrate Nashville History Month in the Nashville scene. I want to run through them lightning round style, but stop when there's a story we absolutely need to hear.
Okay.
So number 1, kiss a philandering Frenchman. Betsy, what on earth are you talking about with that one?
All right. Well, when the people who would make Nashville arrived here, Timothy de Montbriand, a local French fur trader, was already here. His wife, however, was not. So Timothy got busy smooching people. Then there was a giant scandal because his wife was suddenly oh, you know what? I think I'd like to move to Nashville. And he was oh, crap. And he had to marry his mistress off to his friend. But they kept having children. The mistress and the wife had a bunch of overlapping children. So I don't think there's anything more native Nashville than making out with a French fur trader.
Should have been kiss the philandering Frenchman, or do you know of others?
If you look at the history of many American towns where there was a Frenchman when non-French white people got here, they just all kind of seem to have at least had a French wife and a Native American wife, and possibly just what they would call, their home wife and their away wife. So I think it was just at the time, shall we say, they needed comforting in the many places they traveled. And rather than just haul one woman with them, they had a woman in every spot. So I think if you went back to the 1700s, you would find many of the Frenchmen willing to be philanderers with you.
All right, I'm going to get to number 2 on your list. Lie under the stars and eat cheese and crackers, ideally with a horse. Who was Father Arango, and why are we recreating his snack?
Okay, so Father Arango was an Italian priest who came to Tennessee in the 1840s, and it was his job to go around and try to bring Catholics like back into the fold. They'd just been out in the boonies forever without churches. So he would travel around on horseback and meet with various Catholics. If there were enough of them to set up churches, he would physically help them build their churches, marry everybody who needed marrying, bury anybody who needed burying. But I have recently finished this great book by Joe Pagetta called The Apostle of Tennessee. And there are these great and charming stories in there of Father Arango on horseback needing to do like fancy moves to escape bandits or hide in the bushes with his horse so that, the bandits don't get him. And he carried with him cheese and crackers, and that's what he ate at night before he went to bed, him and his horse.
No one tried to lure me in with cheese and crackers when I stopped going to the Catholic Church and became a Methodist.
No, it's definitely a missed opportunity on both sides.
All right, I'm going to keep us on track here. Number 3, go fossil hunting. I don't think people associate Nashville or Tennessee with fossil hunting. So where should people be looking?
Listen, I live in Whites Creek. There is a plumbing warehouse at the corner of Whites Creek Pike and Old Hickory Boulevard. I have found the best fossils just falling down from the rock side behind that place. So my guess is they're probably everywhere. So, we're struggling in the creek beds or whatever. But it's no, you just go look any place where there's bare rock, when you're coming off an exit or whatever, all those places, you can just go check.
What kind of fossils are these too? Because I think people associate it with I found this bone that's a femur from a T-Rex, right? But fossils are so much more than that.
Right. Well, since our part of the world was underwater for so long, many of our fossils are ocean fossils. You can find just a ton of shells, old coral, and then of course central middle Tennessee, the middle of Middle Tennessee is really famous for the amount of, we've had giant mastodons come out as fossils. We're definitely a great place for fossils. If you're just a novice fossil hunter, though, your expectations should be shells.
Hey, it's a great place to start. Number 4, visit Lock One Park. Why do you love this weird little place?
That's exactly why, because it's so weird. It's so rich in history, and it's all right on top of each other because they've not ever really done anything with this park. So the ruins of the old lock are still there. There's a part where I'm is that where the old Eaton's fort was? It looks like it could be. Let's do some archaeology there. There's this wonderful cement staircase that has feet measured out on it so that I guess if you're how high are we flooding? You could go just be oh, the stairwell says it's 30 feet. And you have this great view of downtown. And I would like to see it activated more so that you would know what all this stuff is when you're going to look. But if you are a person like me who just likes to kind of wonder at things, because there's no interpretive stuff going on here, there's a ton to wonder at. It's never crowded because nobody knows it's there and it looks like you're not supposed to go there. But it is really lovely and weird, and I just think anybody could benefit from exploring it.
I would love if from now on you keep seeing way more people because you've blown up this hidden gem.
Right? And I'm oh no.
Hey Nashville, make plans to skip the yard work, errands, and patio grill duty on September 19th and 20th and head south to Alabama's beaches for Freedom Fest at the Wharf in Orange Beach. It's a fall weekend with live music in the background, a salty breeze in the air, and plenty of room to settle in and actually enjoy yourself. From patriotic tributes to arts and crafts, an array of vendors, a car show, and a kids zone, it's a full Gulf Coast celebration with enough going on for everyone, but never so much that it feels rushed. September is just around the corner, and keep in mind that nonstop flights on Allegiant from Nashville to Gulf Shores get your vacation started quicker. So plan your Freedom Fest getaway today at alabamasbeaches.com. Hey Nashville, it's Rachel Iacovone, host of CityCast Nashville. Every day on this podcast, I try to ask questions that no one else in town is asking. Some might say I'm a little nosy. Others might realize I'm just a zillennial raised on the hot goss blogs. Either way, I'm not here to gatekeep. I'm here to share the answers with you. And as a listener of this show, I know you love being clued into what's going on before anyone else. So if this podcast has ever sparked your curiosity or given you something smart to share at your book club or happy hour, here's what you should do. Support this show by becoming a member of our CityCast Nashville Neighbors program. Our membership program costs just $10 a month or $100 a year, and it comes with some great benefits. But most importantly, your membership helps make sure I can keep asking nosy questions and getting you answers that actually matter. Because I think being curious makes us better neighbors. Go to membership.citycast.fm/Nashville to read about member benefits and join now. That's membership.citycast.fm/Nashville. And thanks for your support. Number 5. All right, make your way to the downtown library. Where should a history-curious person start there?
Oh my gosh, it's just an overabundance of riches. The Nashville City Archives is there. They have actual artifacts up there. They always have little changing displays, but that's where if you're like, man, I wonder about this lawsuit that I saw Andrew Jackson got in like 1815, that's where you would go and like be able to look through the court records. And they, bring out these giant books and open them and you feel like you're a wizard. And the people who work there, even the volunteers that work there, are so nice and so smart. So that's up on the 3rd floor. On the 2nd floor, we have the Nashville room, and that is flanked on either side by our civil rights room and then our women's suffrage room. And that's where you'll find a curated collection of books about Nashville or about the Southern history that pertains to Nashville. That's also in the Civil Rights Room. They have books dedicated to the Civil Rights Movement, but they also have photos of different things from the Civil Rights Movement. They show videos. They've done a lot of oral and video histories with people who lived in that era and did stuff. And again, just a bunch of really knowledgeable, lovely people. I think when I was writing Dynamite Nashville, I'm sure Elliot heard every inch of that book like 5 times because I would just go in there and be like, you're not going to believe what I found.
All right, next one, go to the Tennessee State Museum. What should folks make sure to not miss in that facility?
The Tennessee State Museum has the largest free collection of William Edmondson sculptures. So if you are at all in any way curious about Nashville's art history, about this guy who was the first African-American to have a solo show at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, this is it. One of the things that I especially love about seeing his artwork at the Tennessee State Museum is that they usually situate his pieces among other either African-American artists. Like the last time I was there, they had one of his pieces in front of this beautiful quilt that an African-American woman, I think a little older than him, but, roughly same generation, had made. It just gives you a real sense of kind of his context and the stuff that he would have been familiar with. A lot of people don't realize what a treasure the State Museum is for art, but it really is like one of the largest art collections in the state, and they rotate in and out stuff all the time. So it's just a great free resource, and you don't have to close your eyes at the non-Nashville stuff. That was mostly a joke that I put in there, but it's definitely worth repeated visits.
Number 7, Fisk University. What should people look for when they, as you suggested, wander around?
There is nothing not to look at. That place is like a history museum that is in use as a university. They have Civil War barracks that are now jammed together into their theater. So if you're ever like, oh, I wonder what a Civil War barracks looked like, there you go. You can just go look. They have the Fisk Jubilee Hall, which was when the university was first starting out and was struggling and trying to get its feet under it. The Jubilee Singers went on a world tour and they raised money. And that was the first like official building for Fisk. So this is something that the students did for themselves, for the university, and it still stands. And it's this lovely kind of Victorian castle looking thing. But the thing that does not get enough credit, but I think is so nifty, is their library, which looks like what somebody in 1950 must have dreamed the future was going to be like. So it's got this bizarro retro future vibe where everything, but at the same time seems old and seems like the Jetsons.
Yeah, the retro futurism kind of energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just such a treat. And everything else on campus is very like classic and dignified. And then you walk into this place and you're like, this is where the beatniks would have been, right? Then you're like, did Fisk have beatniks?
I do really want you to pursue the history of beatniks, though, on campus now. Because I need someone to answer that for me every time I see this building. All right, I'm going to move us to number 8. You said, eat Mexican food in honor of Nashville almost joining New Spain. Can you please explain that?
Yes. So this is a little known thing, but back in the 1780s, we were constantly under attack from Native Americans. We were a part of North Carolina. They were way on the other side of the mountains. So we would be like, hey, United States, why don't you send some army over here to help defend us? And the United States was like, oh, that's a long way. I don't know if we're going to make it. So then Spain was like, oh, we see an opportunity. Let's arm the Native Americans. And then we can push the United States back out of this side of the mountains. And so General Robertson was like, crap. Okay, so he runs over to New Madrid and he is like, listen, what if we became part of New Spain? Like, just suck us in. Because at that time, what would go on to be the Louisiana Purchase was under the control of Spain. So he's like trying to make a deal. Like, maybe we'll just become a part of New Spain, and then you guys can protect us from the Native Americans. And Spain's like, yes, this sounds very interesting. But at the same time, then the United States was like, oh, hold up. No, we don't want to lose you. We'll make you your own district and we will send people over there. You don't need to go to New Spain. And so then General Robertson is like, okay, cancel. Sorry. Forget I even said that. I'm going to go home to, I think he lived in Clarksville at the time. But anyway, he was like, no, okay, just retract that. But there was this moment when we were seriously like, we should just go be New Spain. And if we'd done that, then we would have the same kinds of roots. We'd have a similar story to like New Mexico or Colorado or Texas or these places where the border passed back and forth over them a number of times. So thought, let's just honor our almost relatives and eat Mexican food.
I'm originally from Florida, so I'm not against this as a concept. So Tennessee would be a very different state, I think, now. All right, number 9 was visit the Nashville City Cemetery. So why this specific one of the many places here honoring our dead?
Well, we have so many good cemeteries, but the thing about the Nashville City Cemetery is that it has interpretive signage. Any other cemetery that you go to in town, if you're like, you look at something and you're like, wow, that is an amazing mausoleum. Who is Adelicia Ackland? You gotta, get on Wikipedia and look it up. But at the city cemetery, there's just all kinds of signage that tells you who everybody is. They work really hard to keep the gravestones clean so that you can read them. During the time that the cemetery was active, you would have seen a lot of wooden headstones or I guess not headstones, grave markers.
I know, headwoods. What are we calling those?
Right, I know. I was like, I hadn't really thought of they can't be wooden headstones. But so you'd have seen a lot of wooden grave markers. And obviously, over time, wooden grave markers fall apart. They now have replaced a lot of those wooden grave markers with wooden grave markers that look how they would have looked when they first went in, which is not something that many of us have ever seen before because they don't stay together long enough for us to see them. So it's pretty cool to be able to see that kind of stuff. It's also a treat because these people that you just kind of hear about, you're like, oh, Anne Cockrell, maybe I vaguely heard of her when I was at Centennial Park. And there she is. Like, it's a way to be like, oh, right, these were real people. Plus, it's got a lot of trees, so it's really easy to walk through. It's run by Nashville Parks, so it's in many ways treated like a park, and it's full of paved paths. So if you want a kind of easy, low-impact, non-hilly park, that's a good one to spend your time at.
All right, last but not least here, number 10. Nashville Sites offers a ton of walking and driving tours to choose from. So can you just name like the one that people should start with?
I think there's two. I think it's important. The McKissick one is really important because you can't really understand who the McKissicks were as architects if you don't go look at the buildings they designed. So it's nice to have somebody on a driving tour who's like, go to this place, look at that thing, let me tell you about it. But the other one that I just highly, highly, highly recommend, even if you're not a Civil War buff, is their Civil War driving tour. I think that because we don't have a battlefield, like the way that when you're in Chattanooga, you can go to the battlefield or you go out to Shiloh or these places where you get a sense of the scale of what happened. The Battle of Nashville basically took place in the suburbs. They came through people's yards. I think people don't really have a feel for just how large this was, how involved it was. Now, you can certainly go to Fort Negley. Can't go to the Interpretive Center because they're doing all the rehab stuff. This is your opportunity to get a sense of the scale of the battle, to get a sense of how it impacted the lives of just ordinary Nashvillians, how these stories we hear of, great heroism or great villainy are just right here, like in the landscape that we see every day that we don't think about because we don't know it. And I think to realize that when you're driving, through a neighborhood and it's like, oh, look at that stone wall. And they're like, yeah, that's the stone wall that this unit hid behind. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this thing is still here. You kind of know it, but it's another thing to really get to see it. And I know for many people, if you're like me, you're like, oh, the Civil War, who cares? War history is just not that interesting to me. But I do think that seeing the ways that the battlefield and the city intersected, it is important to have in your back pocket that knowledge of like, oh, okay, this is why people are so attached to Fort Negley, or this is why people, have these complicated feelings about Franklin Pike, and those kinds of, just gives you background that I think is important to have if you're going to be a citizen of the city.
I know when you were making this list, it was probably hard for someone like you with all this knowledge to narrow it down to 10. Can I get you on the spot here to tell us maybe what that 11th one would have been?
Well, Timothy de Montbriand is my history boyfriend, and I am fascinated with all things related to him. But a thing that I'm most fascinated about is, so after he died, his second widow, his mistress, she opened a tavern in Jolton called Granny Rat's Tavern. And I have been trying because we know that it was in Jolton between the Clarksville Road and the Springfield Road. I try to go there all times of year and just like look in the grass to see if I can see evidence of, maybe the foundation. But I think thing to me that I really love about Nashville is that you can read this history, any bit of history of Nashville, and then go see it. And there's going to be something left. Like, do you know that we had a state prison before the state prison that we all think of as the old state prison?
So how old was this one?
So this one was the first state prison, which they probably started building in like the 1830s. And so if you think of Jack's Barbecue on Charlotte, it was right behind that. There is still one building in that area left that was from the prison. The warden's house still exists. And I think if you look in the parking lots behind Jack's, that you can see the foundation of the old prison wall. So, even this thing that most people don't even know is there, they've never looked for it. When you're like, oh, wait, I can go look. And you're like, wait, there is still something to see.
Yeah, still exists.
Yeah, which I just think is really neat.
So our number 11 is maybe read and go see.
Yes.
So there's so much Nashville history. Maybe when you're at the library, you could find something new and go see it. This was such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Betsy, for sharing, as always, this great amount of knowledge you've got. And happy Nashville History Month.
Thank you. I hope everybody looks forward to celebrating it every year.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. Best of Nashville voting is open for one more week. We would love to have your vote as best podcast. Go to vote.nashvillescene.com and find us in the media and politics category. You've got to vote in 20 categories for it to count, so be sure to spread the love. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Pa'lante!